There's a kind of pain women rarely speak of, a slow, invisible heartbreak that doesn't come from betrayal or cruelty, but from something much quieter, your silence. It's easy to believe that saying nothing is better than saying the wrong thing. That staying quiet is the same as staying calm. But silence, when she's crying out for connection, isn't peace, it's a weapon. Your silence is not neutral. It echoes in her heart. It makes her question her worth. It makes her wonder if she's invisible. If she matters. If you ever really cared. When a woman opens up to you, when she shares her fears, her dreams, her day, she's not just talking. She's inviting you in. She's handing you the keys to her soul. And every time you meet her with cold silence, with distracted nods, with emotional distance, you're not just ignoring her words. You're ignoring her. That kind of neglect doesn't show up on bruises, but it leaves scars. It erodes trust. It kills the emotional intimacy she once felt. And eventually, it breaks her. You might think you're being stoic, strong, or logical, but understand this, true strength is not silence. True strength is the courage to speak, to connect, to say what's hard and hear what's harder. Women don't need perfect words. They don't need poetry or constant affirmations. But they do need your presence. Your attention. Your voice. A simple, I hear you. I see you. I care. That can change everything. Don't wait until she's gone to realize she was never asking for much. Just your honesty. Your vulnerability. Your effort. Your silence may feel safe, but to her, it's a prison. And eventually, she'll stop trying to speak through the walls. Not because she stopped loving you, but because it hurt too much to keep screaming into the void. If you love her, don't make her guess. Don't let her soul starve while you stay locked in your head. Speak. Listen. Connect. Because silence isn't always golden. Sometimes, it's the very thing that destroys everything beautiful. Silence can be more painful than words because it leaves too much space for the mind to wander, and when the mind wanders in the absence of reassurance, it rarely imagines something comforting. Instead, it fills in the blanks with doubt, insecurity, and worst-case scenarios. When someone you care about chooses to say nothing in moments when you need them most, the silence doesn't feel neutral. It feels loud. Deafening, even. It becomes a reminder of absence, of emotional distance, of a disconnect that words could have bridged but didn't. For a woman who's emotionally invested, your silence can feel like a dismissal of everything she is. She wonders if she said too much, if she made you uncomfortable, or if you simply don't care. The human heart is wired to seek connection, to be seen, to be acknowledged. When silence replaces communication, it tells her, intentionally or not, that she's not worth responding to. And that message, even if it was never your intention, cuts deeper than any harsh word ever could. Words, even hard ones, create a sense of certainty. They give her something to react to, something to work with. She can process them, question them, or understand where you stand. Silence, however, is a blank canvas where the fear of abandonment, rejection, and inadequacy paints its own dark picture. You may think you're avoiding conflict by keeping quiet, but what you're really doing is forcing her to battle invisible demons alone. She may look composed, but inside, she's likely questioning everything. Silence breeds overthinking. She starts asking herself, did I say the wrong thing? Is he pulling away? Does he not love me anymore? This spiral creates a rift between you, a rift that grows every time you choose to say nothing instead of simply telling her what's on your mind. Even if your silence comes from confusion, fear, or needing space, it doesn't translate that way. To her, it looks like apathy. And apathy in the face of emotional vulnerability is soul-crushing. What hurts even more is the fact that silence often shows up right after moments of emotional exposure. Maybe she shared something deeply personal. Maybe she told you how she feels. And instead of being met with acknowledgement or even mild discomfort, she's met with nothing. That nothing echoes back louder than any rejection, because it's not just about the words, it's about the absence of effort. It's about you not choosing to speak when she needed you to care out loud. A single sentence of truth, even if it's hard, is better than days of indifference. When you go silent, you're not just protecting yourself. You're isolating her. And in that isolation, she begins to detach, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Because the heart can only knock on a closed door for so long before it gives up. And once that happens, once the damage is done, your silence won't just be painful. It'll be the reason she no longer listens for your voice at all. When a woman speaks to you, not just about facts or plans, but about her feelings, her day, her fears, her past, she's not simply filling silence with words. She's opening a door. She's offering you a seat inside her internal world. It may sound casual or even mundane at times, but every story, every comment, every emotion she shares is a test of safety. She's asking, "Can I trust you with more of me?" Whether she says it directly or not, her openness is an invitation. And what you do with that invitation shapes the foundation of your relationship with her. When she talks about something that happened at work, or how her friend hurt her feelings, or why she feels insecure about something that seems small to you, it's not really about the story. It's about her desire to be known. She wants you to understand how she sees the world, how she experiences pain, what makes her feel alive, and what makes her shut down. She's showing you the emotional wiring behind her smile, her silence, her stress. When you brush it off, interrupt her, or fail to be present in those moments, you're not just dismissing a topic, you're dismissing her. Connection is not built in grand gestures, it's built in the micro moments. The quiet nods. The way your eyes don't leave hers when she's speaking. The simple acknowledgement that says, "I hear you. I see you. Keep going." That's what creates emotional intimacy. That's how trust deepens. But when you treat her expression like background noise, or respond with emotional flatness, it sends a clear message: this space you're offering me? I don't value it enough to step into it. And nothing hurts more than watching someone fumble what you offered with vulnerability. Even when she's venting or rambling, she's not just talking, she's reaching. Maybe she's trying to feel closer to you. Maybe she's testing if this relationship is emotionally safe. Or maybe she just needs someone to hold space for her emotions without trying to fix them or silence them. And if you meet that with impatience or disinterest, she'll stop inviting you in. Not to punish you, but to protect herself. She'll start keeping more to herself. She'll start talking to her friends instead. She'll start talking to herself. And one day, you'll notice that she's quieter, not because she has nothing to say, but because she no longer trusts that you'll truly hear her. This is the moment most men realize too late that communication is not about exchanging information, it's about exchanging presence. About creating a space where two souls meet without fear, without judgment, without indifference. When she talks, she's not just making noise, she's building a bridge. And how you choose to cross it will determine whether that bridge becomes a path to closeness or crumbles from neglect. Because every time she speaks, she's not just talking, she's inviting you in. And that invitation, once ignored enough times, won't stay open forever. Emotional neglect is one of the most overlooked forms of pain in relationships. Unlike physical wounds, it leaves no bruises, no visible damage, no clear moment to point back to and say, "That's when it happened." Instead, it's a slow erosion, a fading of connection, of value, of emotional safety. And the scars it leaves are deep, hidden, and lasting. They manifest not through dramatic breakdowns, but through quiet withdrawal, a growing numbness, a loss of faith and intimacy. A woman who experiences emotional neglect doesn't always scream or cry. Most of the time, she simply fades. Piece by piece. When you stop noticing her emotions, when you dismiss her needs, when you stop asking how she feels or fail to respond when she's clearly hurting, you might not think much of it. You might assume everything's fine. After all, she's not complaining, she's not arguing, she's not asking for anything outright. But that silence isn't peace. It's resignation. It's her heart learning that being seen is a luxury she no longer expects from you. And that kind of emotional starvation doesn't come with a loud crash, it comes with quiet heartbreak. It's easy to underestimate the power of small, consistent absence. The times you looked at your phone instead of her eyes when she was talking. The times you brushed off her sadness with a "you'll be fine." The way you stopped asking what she needed, or stopped checking in on her mood. One missed moment of connection may seem harmless. But when those moments pile up, day after day, week after week, they turn into a message she starts to internalize: my feelings don't matter. I'm alone in this relationship. That's the tragedy of emotional neglect. It doesn't just hurt in the moment. It rewires her belief system. It makes her second-guess her worth, not only in the relationship but as a woman. She may begin to think that expecting emotional support is asking too much. That needing attention is being needy. That vulnerability is a weakness she should abandon. Over time, her emotional world goes underground. She stops expressing herself, not because she's healed, but because she's exhausted. And when that happens, the damage is already done. By the time you notice the distance, it's often too late. She's still there physically, but emotionally, she's gone. Her laughter feels different. Her affection becomes routine. The sparkle in her eyes dims. These are the invisible scars of neglect, the ones that don't scream for help, but bleed out slowly behind smiles. They aren't caused by what you did, but by what you repeatedly failed to do. And the cruelest part is that she may not even blame you directly. She might carry the pain quietly, convincing herself that she's just too emotional, too sensitive, too complicated. But deep down, all she ever needed was to feel like her heart mattered. Like her emotions were safe with you. And when that safety disappears, the scar it leaves isn't visible, but it is unforgettable. Stoicism is often misunderstood, especially by men who confuse emotional strength with emotional suppression. At its core, Stoicism teaches control over your reactions, clarity of thought, and the ability to remain grounded in chaos. But somewhere along the way, many have twisted it into an excuse for shutting down, for becoming unreachable, for treating emotional expression as weakness. That's not Stoicism. That's emotional isolation. And while the two may look similar from the outside, calm demeanor, limited emotional display, the outcomes couldn't be more different. One builds resilience and connection, the other builds walls that keep love out. A truly stoic man feels everything. He experiences joy, sadness, pain, anger, and love, but he doesn't let those emotions dictate his actions. He acknowledges them, processes them, and responds with intention. He's not cold, he's calm. He's not distant. He's discerning. Emotional isolation, on the other hand, avoids emotion altogether. It buries it. It pretends nothing touches him. It stays quiet when someone is hurting, disconnected when someone reaches out, and dismissive when vulnerability shows up. That might seem like strength to some, but in reality, it's fear. Fear of discomfort. Fear of vulnerability. Fear of truly being seen. Women don't expect a man to fall apart at every moment. They don't need emotional theatrics. But they do need presence. They need to know there's a human being behind the stoic mask, someone who feels, someone who understands, someone who can hold space without vanishing into silence. Emotional isolation tells her that she's alone, even when you're right next to her. It tells her that if she breaks, you won't catch her. That if she opens her heart, she'll be met with indifference. And that's a kind of pain no relationship can survive for long. Stoicism becomes dangerous when it's used as armor against emotional intimacy. Because intimacy isn't just physical closeness, it's emotional transparency. It's being able to say, I'm struggling right now, or that hurt me, or I care about you more than I show. Real stoicism gives you the inner strength to speak those truths without being owned by them. But isolation silences those truths completely. And in doing so, it leaves the people you love in the dark, guessing how you feel, wondering if you feel anything at all. The strongest men are not the ones who never cry or never speak. They're the ones who choose when and how to express themselves, not because they're weak, but because they are wise. They know that connection requires more than control, it requires courage. The courage to open up, to be known, and to allow someone else into your emotional world. If you've been taught that real men don't show emotion, you've been misled. Real men don't hide from it. They face it. They master it. And they learn how to share it in a way that strengthens both themselves and the people they love. Stoicism, in its purest form, doesn't shut people out. It makes you strong enough to let them in relationships. It's easy to believe that grand gestures are the key to connection, lavish gifts, sweeping declarations, extravagant plans. But the truth is, it's the small acts of presence that hold the deepest power. A quiet moment of eye contact, a hand on her back when she's anxious, a text in the middle of the day just to say, "I'm thinking of you," these are the things that stay with her. Not because they're loud, but because they're intentional. They say, "I see you. I'm here. You matter to me." And that message, when delivered consistently in small, sincere ways, transforms everything. When you're truly present, even for a few seconds, you create a space where love can breathe. Presence doesn't mean having the perfect thing to say. It doesn't mean fixing her problems or being available every second of the day. It means showing up fully when it counts, when she's hurting, when she's celebrating, when she's unsure of herself. It's about leaning in when she's talking instead of checking out. It's listening without formulating your next response. It's remembering the little things she says in passing and bringing them up weeks later because you were actually paying attention. These small moments build trust. They build safety. They build the unshakable foundation that says, "You're not alone." And the beauty of presence is that it doesn't demand perfection. You don't have to be poetic or hyperintuitive. You just have to care enough to notice. To put down your phone. To pause your distraction. To ask, "How are you, really?" without rushing past the answer. These gestures may seem insignificant in the moment, but they tell her something profound. You're emotionally reliable. You're invested. You're there, not just in body, but in spirit. What most people don't realize is how deeply these small acts counteract the silent fears people carry. Everyone fears being invisible, being forgotten, being unworthy of attention. Every time you show up in a way that proves she's not forgotten, not invisible, and more than worthy of your time and attention, you help heal wounds she may not even speak of. You become a safe space in a chaotic world, and that's not something people let go of easily. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing something, consistently and sincerely. Holding her hand during silence. Remembering the song that makes her cry and playing it when she needs to release something. Leaving a note on the bathroom mirror when she's had a rough week. These small efforts aren't just cute, they're powerful. They create emotional fingerprints that don't fade. And over time, they say what words sometimes can't. "I choose you, every day, in every little way." In the end, she won't remember every gift or event. She'll remember how you made her feel in the quiet, in the daily, in the ordinary. And that's where love either flourishes or fades, not in the grand, but in the small acts of presence that prove your heart was in the room with hers. Silence in a relationship can feel like peace, especially when it follows arguments, tension, or emotional chaos. But not all silence is healing. Not all quiet is calm. Sometimes, silence is the last language of pain. It's not born from resolution but from resignation. And when a woman goes silent, not because she feels safe, but because she feels unseen, unheard, and emotionally exhausted, it's not a pause. It's a withdrawal. It's the slow death of connection, and by the time it settles in, the damage is already deep. A woman's silence isn't always a sign of composure. Sometimes, it's the only way she can protect herself from further disappointment. In the beginning, she may have expressed herself fully. She may have told you exactly what she felt, what she needed, what hurt her, and what she hoped for. She gave you the roadmap to her emotional world, believing that you would value it. But over time, when those expressions were met with indifference, irritation, or avoidance, something shifted. She stopped feeling safe to speak. She stopped believing her emotions held value in your eyes. And that silence? That's the echo of all the words she held back because they no longer felt welcome. This kind of silence isn't a strategy or a game. It's grief. It's the aftermath of trying over and over, only to be met with absence. It's not about punishing you, it's about preserving what's left of her dignity. It's her way of saying, I've said all I can. I've given all I had. And I can't keep bleeding out in conversations that go nowhere. This is the silence that doesn't need volume to be deafening. It doesn't scream, but it speaks volumes. And if you're not paying attention, you'll mistake it for calm, when it's actually the calm before the goodbye. What many men don't realize is that most women don't just walk away. They wait. They hope. They try again and again, giving chance after chance, softening their voice just to be heard. But when it becomes clear that their voice only echoes in emptiness, they begin the process of detachment and silence. By the time you notice the difference, when the good mornings are shorter, the laughter is less frequent, the warmth is fading, it's not the beginning of a problem. It's the final stage of one that's been building quietly for a long time. You might think she's fine because she stopped crying, stopped arguing, stopped expressing frustration. But silence isn't always peace. Sometimes, it's what's left when love has no more words. It's a wall built not from anger, but from sorrow. And once that silence becomes her new normal, it's almost impossible to break through. Not because she hates you, but because she no longer trusts that you're listening. Eventually, she'll go silent too. Not because she wants to hurt you, but because speaking hurts her more than staying quiet ever could. She gave you the roadmap to her emotional world, believing that you would value it. But over time, when those expressions were met with indifference, irritation, or avoidance, something shifted. She stopped feeling safe to speak. She stopped believing her emotions held value in your eyes. And that silence? That's the echo of all the words she held back because they no longer felt welcome. This kind of silence isn't a strategy or a game. It's grief. It's the aftermath of trying over and over, only to be met with absence. It's not about punishing you, it's about preserving what's left of her dignity. It's her way of saying, I've said all I can. I've given all I had. And I can't keep bleeding out in conversations that go nowhere. This is the silence that doesn't need volume to be deafening. It doesn't scream, but it speaks volumes. And if you're not paying attention, you'll mistake it for calm, when it's actually the calm before the goodbye. What many men don't realize is that most women don't just walk away. They wait. They hope. They try again and again, giving chance after chance, softening their voice just to be heard. But when it becomes clear that their voice only echoes in emptiness, they begin the process of detachment and silence. By the time you notice the difference, when the good mornings are shorter, the laughter is less frequent, the warmth is fading, it's not the beginning of a problem. It's the final stage of one that's been building quietly for a long time. You might think she's fine because she stopped crying, stopped arguing, stopped expressing frustration. But silence isn't always peace. Sometimes, it's what's left when love has no more words. It's a wall built not from anger, but from sorrow. And once that silence becomes her new normal, it's almost impossible to break through. Not because she hates you, but because she no longer trusts that you're listening. Eventually, she'll go silent too. Not because she wants to hurt you, but because speaking hurts her more than staying quiet ever could. So if you're wondering why the light in her eyes has dimmed, why her laughter feels distant, why her affection has cooled, it may not be because she stopped loving you. It might be because your silence told her she wasn't worth the words. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the right answers. But you do have to show up. Emotionally. Consistently. Fully. Because in the end, silence is not just the absence of noise, it's the absence of you. And if you continue to withhold your voice, your presence, your care, she won't raise her voice to fight back. She'll just go quiet, for good. Speak now, while her heart is still within reach. Let your words be the bridge back to her soul.